Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Think Future podcast. I'm your host, Chris Kalabukas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California, the home of Apple Computer. That's right, folks. Apple Computer. It is, a couple weeks out from the big iPhone 11 announcement, early September. And as I watch this thing, I watch this every year. I watch this every year because, and I'll tell you why I watch these product announcements every year, is that Apple has always, or usually, come out at the very, very tippy top of innovative companies list. The top 10 most innovative companies in the world. And usually Apple is at the very, very top. And I've always had a problem with that because I've always thought that Apple had one awesomely great idea, which was the iPhone. Awesomely great idea. There was something brand new. Of course, they put it all together from things that were already existing, but they did it right. This initial package of awesomeness, this magic thing that's incredible, right? Incredible design, incredible functionality. iPhone 1. And every product that they've done since then has been sort of like an offshoot of the iPhone. It's been a bigger iPhone, a smaller iPhone, an Apple Watch, which is a tiny little iPhone on your wrist. All of these things that Apple has done. An iPad. Where's my iPad? I don't have my iPad with me. An iPad is a bigger iPhone. All these things are just variations of the original innovation. And so you hear all these companies talking about how Apple is the most innovative company in the world, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think so. I think they're no longer innovative and they're just resting on their laurels, not really doing anything new and different. They're just like continuing the same thing. And I have the exact same sense. I have been having the exact same sense every time for years now, every time I watch one of these events. And what's interesting was that this year I had this weird flashback to when I was working with Yahoo. And they did these vignettes. They were talking about Apple Watch, and they did these vignettes of people whose lives were saved by Apple Watch. And basically, what happened is that Apple Watch, because it monitors you, it has an ECG on it, all that good stuff. It called emergency personnel for people when they were having some kind of episode. I think somebody fell. Another guy was having a heart attack. There was a pregnant woman who was having like an increased heart rate for no reason. This device basically raised the alarm automatically when something was happening to the person. And before the person even knew it, I think there was one guy who said, I was lying in bed and I was reading, and all of a sudden the paramedics showed up to my door. And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, your heart's, there's something wrong with your heart. We got to, do something. And then like seconds later, he started feeling like terrible. This thing proactively predicted that something was going to happen, or it was seeing something was going to happen, but it hadn't even reached his own senses yet. It's like Apple knew this guy was having a heart attack before he did. And I thought, wow, that's really inspirational. That's amazing. Here's a big tech company, actually saving people's lives with technology. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we need to happen. That's exactly what needs to happen. So awesome. That was my first thought. My second thought was, here we have a large tech company with some of the most intimate data, gathering some of the most intimate data of people's lives, their health data. How do I know that they're keeping my data private? How do I know that, my data is not going to go somewhere, it's not going to be sold off, whatever? I'm concerned about that. But then that was my second thought. My third thought was, even if that's the case, them sending paramedics to revive me or make sure that I'm here while I'm having a heart attack and save my life is worth the price of giving up privacy for that thing. So that was my third thought. And I thought to myself, well, how do I reconcile these two thoughts? On the one hand, yes, I do want something to come in. I mean, this is what I was talking about last time. I was talking about how the difference between people being lazy and taking agency away from them and the technology. Our technology should support us, should help us. And if our technology is helping, and these big tech companies and the technology is basically automatically helping us to survive these events, then I'm all for that. I want to see more of that. I think that's great. But I still have the privacy issue. So maybe there needs to be some kind of intermediary that the data doesn't go directly to Apple, but it goes to some system that I own or manage or whatever, and it is the one who sets off the alarm to say, hey, call these paramedics for this guy. But the reason why it reminded me of Yahoo is that way back, we were at an all hands meeting, and I was watching the leadership talk about various groups, and they brought on, they started talking about Yahoo Groups. And if you're not aware of Yahoo Groups was a sort of a set of community message boards where people could create a community message board around a particular topic, and they would discuss it. And there's companies like that do that now. Meetup does physical ones, Facebook Groups, they took over most of that functionality. But the thing that I found was interesting is that here we were, like 9,000 people in this room, and what they did is they brought somebody up from the crowd to talk about their disease. They had some kind of disease which is fairly rare, and they had there was nobody around them who had the disease. It was extremely rare, and they were just feeling incredibly depressed and despondent that there was nobody that they could really relate to, because there was nobody else around who had this disease. But so they went online and they created a Yahoo group for this affliction, and then suddenly people from all over the world joined this group, and they had other people to talk to. They had people that they could talk to about their symptoms, about what to do, tips and tricks and stuff. And suddenly this person no longer felt alone. There's the power of the technology, the power of the internet to create these communities of interest of people who would never normally meet each other in real life, but it basically uplifted these people who were depressed and lonely about being in this condition. So on the one hand, technology can make things worse. In fact, some of these affinity groups turn people in the opposite direction. They make things worse for people, because people who want to do bad things could connect with other people who want to do bad things. But there's people who need somebody to talk to, can connect with other people who they need to talk to. So it's not a good or bad thing. It's a neutral thing. But I think the more we see tech companies stepping in and actually improving people's lives through these services, I think we're going to see a much more improved sort of humanity arise from it. Because do I have to concern myself with, if these machines are so sensitive that they can detect whether or not I'm having a heart attack before even I myself can tell, wouldn't we want that? Wouldn't we want something like that? Wouldn't we be willing to give up some privacy to get that level of assistance so good it knows before we do? I don't know, you tell me. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.